Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Haunted House. My name is Ghost, and welcome back to another episode of History with a Ghost. Wall Street has basically been the beating heart of America since it existed. It is the home of the New York Stock Exchange, the largest stock exchange ever. That heart would be struck by a group of violent terrorists that cared about nothing but anarchy. Today, we're talking about the 1920 Wall Street bombing. We're going to talk about the event itself and the theories of who carried it out. At 12:01 p.m. on Thursday, the 16th of September of 1920, a horse-drawn carriage pulled into 23 Wall Street and parked in front of the J.P. Morgan and Co. bank headquarters. It was the busiest time of day for Wall Street. A man was seen leaving the wagon and escaping through an alleyway. A minute later, the carriage exploded. What people didn't know is that there was over 500 pounds of TNT in the carriage, packed with cast iron sash weights to cause extra carnage and damage. The initial blast killed 30 people and injured hundreds. Eight more people would die throughout the next couple of days. The wagon was just obliterated. It did not exist anymore. The horse was shredded and nearby cars were destroyed. The buildings around the carriage were pummeled. Windows were shattered, interiors of buildings were damaged, and the walls were peppered with shrapnel, damage still visible in the stone walls today. The US government at the time did not care about who carried out the attack. The scene was cleaned up and people went back to work like nothing happened. Any and all evidence at the scene of the bombing were thrown away. The Bureau of Investigation, the predecessor to the FBI, would eventually start a investigation. They found that the horse that had drawn the carriage was recently fitted with new shoes. They managed to find the blacksmith of these shoes, but he was able to give little information. They investigated a bunch of other leads, but were ultimately unsuccessful. They did find these mysterious and concerning flyers in a mailbox near the bombing site that had red writing that said, quote, "Remember, we will not tolerate any longer. Free the political prisoners or it will be sure death for all of you." End quote. At the bottom of the flyer, it also had written out American Anarchist Fighters. This got rid of any thoughts of the explosion being a accident, because, it's completely normal to bring in to Wall Street a TNT filled wagon. That's completely normal. The government and everyone else now just had the thought of which anarchist group did this, and this is what has never been solved. Because of the US government's poor response and disposal of evidence, there isn't really any way to know who did it. We only have a motive because of the flyer. There is many possible culprits. The US government thought that maybe it was the Bolsheviks, revolutionaries, um, but the most common and most accepted theory is the bombing was carried out by Galenists. Galenists were followers of Luigi Galeni. Luigi Galeni was a Italian insurrectionist, anarchist, and communist known for his propaganda of the dead tactics. He was the editor for the Italian American anarchist newspaper called Cronaca Sovversiva. I'm sure I'm not saying that correctly. This dude was such an a-hole. He called upon the death of multiple leaders which his followers carried out. He was eventually deported from the US because of his publications from the anarchist newspaper, from stuff about being opposed to World War One, and he casually published a manual for how to make a bomb. The dude was insane. Most people believe that the Gagarinist carried out the Wall Street bombing because he was deported, and that seems to be backed up by the flyer. They definitely, a year before the Wall Street bombing, carried out a bombing in response to his deportation, where they targeted Mitchell Palmer, the Attorney General at the time. They also targeted a Supreme Justice, and funny enough, J.P. Morgan Jr., the owner of the J.P. Morgan and Co. Bank that was targeted in the Wall Street bombing. So it's pretty obvious, I'd say, that it was them. As for who drove the carriage in personally, it is believed it was uh, a man by the name of Mario Buda. He was a known Galenist who was close with Luigi and other famous Galenists. He was responsible for multiple other bombings, including the bombing of Mitchell Palmer and J.P. Morgan. A day after the Wall Street bombing, he left America and went back to Italy. So, take what you want from that. But yeah, that's about everything about the Wall Street bombing. A interesting time in America's history. The 1910s and 20s were a different time, bro. But yeah, sorry if I was stuttering a little bit and stuff. Again, it's been a weird week, but yeah. If you like this video, please give it a like and a follow, and I'll see you next time. Bye.